Today is August 19th, 6 p.m., and we're calling to order the City of Maplewood Park and Rec's Commission meeting. Can we do a roll call, please? And I can't see you, so maybe Audra, you can point fingers to people who should sit in.
Sure, Chair, if you want to just read off or say people's names and they can just answer if they're here.
Okay, Craig Bannon.
Here.
Terry Millette.
I know she's absent today. She's the one that is not planning to be here.
Karen Papa.
Here.
Kimmy Porter.
Here.
Bruce Roman.
Not yet.
Okay, and Nikki.
Oh, she's
Here.
Yeah.
Nikki's there. Okay, and now you said something about Emily and Bill, and I don't know those
Bill.
names.
Bill is our council liaison, and Emily is the natural resources coordinator who will be giving a presentation tonight. So.
Okay.
Hey,
So
Bill is here. I'll go on mute.
Yep, and Bill's here too. So we'll just log
Okay.
Bruce in if he comes, but we can go ahead and keep going.
Okay, I need approval of the agenda for tonight, please.
I'll approve
Somebody?
tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. We need an approval of the minutes from the May 20th meeting. And you should have had a copy of those in your packets.
And Chair, if I could make a suggestion, just because some people aren't on screen, takes a little longer, but just to read off names and then people can give their answer. That way we get it for the record that everyone voted.
Okay. So I think we had a unanimous approval of agenda, so that would be everybody.
Correct. Yeah.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minute. That's correct.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say your name and say aye.
Craig is an aye.
Karen, aye. Kimmy Porter, aye. Nikki Villavicencio, aye.
Okay, I think the minutes have been approved. We have some new business for this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to Audra to explain what's going on.
Thank you, Chair. Just to give you a little background on the item for tonight for appointing a commission member and an alternate to the Parks and Recreation Programming Task Force. Beginning in March 13th of 2020, all in-person programming and services offered by the Parks and Recreation Department and the Nature Center were closed due to COVID-19 concerns. And since that time, the city has continued to evaluate the COVID-19 response and forecast possible budgetary impacts in 2020 and 2021. And in early June of 2020, the decision was made. It was a hard decision to make to close the Nature Center and suspend Parks and Recreation programming, which did result in layoffs of staff in those areas. With increasing uncertainty about the impacts of COVID-19 and a return to normal conditions, the future of these services is unknown. So then the recommendation was made from the council to form task force to examine, how we, if possible, could move forward with Nature Center programming, recreation programming, and how that might look in the future. And at the June 22nd City Council meeting, direction was given to the staff to develop 2 task force of residents, stakeholders, and other parties to develop a new model of service for both the Nature Center and for the Parks and Recreation Department. And among the goals of these task forces would be to review existing programming, services, and operating budgets, review possible programming alternatives, and identify possible funding partners to help pay for the amenities with a regional focus and draw. And that it was approved by the council to go ahead to form these task forces, and so they've been busy. The applications were put out to the public, and we've been moving forward. And one of the key things to do was to have commission members be a part of these task forces. The Nature Center Task Force, they had a member of the ENR appointed to the commission, and the ask was for the Parks and Recreation Task Force to appoint a member of the Parks Commission and an alternate to serve on this task force. And just a little background of what they would be doing. The big question for this task force will be what Parks and Recreation model best serves our community now and going forward in the future. And it would be comprised, ideally, the goal is to have one city council member, which will be Bill Knudsen, who's with us tonight. He's our liaison. One member of the Parks and Recreation Commission and an alternate in case that person can't make it. 1 to 2 members of the athletic associations that we've worked with over the years. Nonprofit partners, cities, county members, about 3 if possible. 2 members from the school district, 3 to 4 residents, and then staff members. And it would be City Manager Melinda Coleman, myself, Neil Brennan would be, an input on the commission, and Chief Nadeau, our public safety director, just because of their interaction and our working together with our community outreach so closely. So that is what this will entail in the timeline. We're looking at 6 meetings, and they're approximately 2.5 hours every 3 weeks. That may change. They're trying to fine tune what the meetings might look like. They would be beginning for the end of August here. That'll be determined, and we'll be doing a community survey with summary findings, having some recommendations in October, and the goal is to have a final report in early December. So it's a fairly ambitious schedule. It's a extensive commitment, but it's a really important one, and it's going to help shape, what we do with Parks and Recreation going forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the commission, and the goal tonight is for you to nominate a member for the task force and an alternate. So, Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Audra.
Sure.
These are some significant times and happenings for our city. I think we need to take some time tonight to discuss where we as a commission want to have input and where best we might help with that decision process. I'm going to open it for discussion. Would you say your name first and then your comments?
So Dorothy, this is Karen, and my question is the 6 meetings that are planned for about 2.5 hours or so, would they be evening meetings?
Chair, members of the commission.
Audra?
Chair, members of the commission, that is my understanding, and I'm not sure how many might possibly in person or they will be Zoom. More information will come for that. I'm just not 100% sure of if that's all been finalized.
Okay.
Anyone else? I am very interested in what is happening with this. I have the time, I think the experience, and the ability to serve as our representative. I would like to nominate myself. Is there anyone else who's interested in either being the appointee or the alternate?
And if there's a second for Dorothy?
Hi, this is Nikki. I will definitely second Dorothy. And then I would also like to add that I'd be willing to be the alternative, but if there's somebody else who is interested in it, I would let them have the opportunity. I served on the North End Task Force on behalf of the Parks and Recs Commission, and it was a really good experience. One thing I was thinking is the meetings are all, they should be public. So even if one of us doesn't get on and we're still interested, we can still stay plugged in, hopefully. But yeah, so that's my 2 cents. I second Dorothy's motion to be our designated person, and then I I will put my hat in for alternative unless somebody else has interest.
This is Dorothy. I'd be happy to second Nikki for the alternate. Other comments or contributions?
Then Dorothy. if
Audra,
there
do we
is-
need?
Oh, yep, Chair. If there is no one else, then since there's been a second, we should just take a vote to see what the commission agrees on both of those nominations.
Can we do that?
Okay, can we vote on both of them at the same time?
Sure, if you want to phrase
Motion.
it that way.
Motion for Dorothy as the appointee and Nikki as the alternate.
And I'll second that.
Say your name and say your vote.
Craig, yes.
Karen, I vote yes.
Kimmy, yes.
Nikki?
Nikki, yes.
Dorothy, yes. Okay. Does that take care of that business, Audra?
Sure, that does. And thank you for being so willing to serve on this important task force. We really appreciate that.
Okay. And then we have a natural resources update. We have Emily here.
Chair, members of the commission, yes, I'm happy to introduce you to Emily. I think most of you met Emily. You were able to come on our bus tour last year? Were you able to come?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
there, so I met some of you.
Yeah. Well, Emily is here to give you an update on, even though it's been a crazy year with COVID and lots of changes, what hasn't changed is our natural areas and open spaces and preserves still need maintaining. There's been a lot of gardens and things to keep up. So Emily has been busier than ever. So she's here to just give you an update on all the things that have been happening with natural resources. So with that, Emily, I am going to make it so you can share your screen.
Perfect.
And you should be good.
All right, let me see if this works. One moment. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay, first of all?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can.
Okay, great. Just wanted to double check. You never know with Zoom. But thank you, chair members, for having me here today. Thank you for that great introduction, Audra. Audra just asked me to come and talk about natural resources and our open spaces and kind of give an update on 2020 and what I've been doing and what's been going on. So first of all, I just wanted to introduce myself because like Audra said, I've met some of you and some of you I haven't. So I've been with the city for 1 year and a week now. I just did the math. So it's been a year, and I previously came from St. Paul Parks and Recreation, and there I did natural resources management and also worked with a lot of volunteers. I was there for 4 years and worked at a lot of other places before that doing natural resources management. So just today, I was going to give you an overview of 2020 and also some projects that are on the horizon for this next year. I'm going to keep it pretty open space and parks focused because you are the Parks and Rec Commission. But there are a lot of other things I do beyond parks, coordinating the forestry program. Audra mentioned gardening. I've had a big hand in maintaining the city gardens this year. Working with our rain garden program on the street and other programs like that. So I'll just kind of go through the year and what's been going on. So in February, the Public Works crew was working hard to help me with some ash tree removals. So we removed 89 ash trees this winter. And most of those were street trees. And these are trees that either had confirmed or suspected emerald ash borer. We also did remove 20 trees in neighborhood parks this year. These were trees that our forester went out and saw that they had some sort of decline that was indicating that they had emerald ash borer. So there you can see listed the parks where we removed trees from and how many trees we removed. So Edgerton, Western Hills, Crestview, Myland, and Pleasant View. So this kind of follows what we've been seeing in the neighborhoods too. Some of these neighborhoods have a lot of ash trees and have been a little bit harder hit by emerald ash borer. So just wanted to make you guys aware of that. We do expect that more trees will be getting emerald ash borer. We'll be finding more in the parks too. More on other tree related stuff later in this presentation, but so this spring, moving on from winter, it was a strange spring for me, as I'm sure it was for most other people with COVID happening. So I was slowed down a little bit on my natural resources project. But one really positive thing that happened this spring was partnering with communications to make some fun videos to highlight our neighborhood preserves. So I made 2 videos with Kevin in communications about Prairie Preserve and Fish Creek Preserve. And the idea here was to get residents out, because when we had that stay-at-home order, the one thing we were allowed to do was get out into parks, go for a hike. So it was a good way to introduce these parks to our residents and out and enjoy the preserves in their neighborhood that they might not even know are there. We also made a video of tree planting tips, and that coincided with our spring tree sale that we had. And we sold 150 trees working with Tree Trust, and they sold out very quickly this spring. We're going to have to add a lot more trees next year. But these trees went and were planted on people's private property. So yet again, another way to increase canopy in Maplewood, and also gave people something to do this spring when we were all going stir crazy and wanted to get out and work in our yards. So great thing for residents there. Moving into summer a little bit. So did some management at Prairie Farm Preserve, which is over by Bruntrip Farm, of course. And so this was a restoration that was seeded in the fall of 2018 by my predecessor, Ginny. And she did that work with a DNR grant. And as you may or may not know, Prairie needs some pretty continuous weed control in the first 3 years of establishment. The first and second year, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a weedy mess. But if you keep on it, by year 3 or 4, you really start to see those prairie plants emerge. So this year we completed a mid-season mowing to prevent weeds from seeding out. It also allows the prairie plants that are there to be able to not be crowded out by weeds. They can grow and be happy, hopefully. And when I was out there a couple weeks ago, I saw a lot of really good plants that were popping up. So that's very encouraging. The pictures on the right are plants that I saw. They weren't flowering yet, but this is what they will look like. So lots of good things happening there. I also had a Conservation Corps crew help me at Fish Creek. So this crew is made of young adults age 18 to 25. There were 5 of them that helped me out. And the funding for this crew is provided by Mississippi Park Connection. They're a great partner at Fish Creek. They're like the nonprofit partner of the National Park Service, which you probably know that Fish Creek is within the Mississippi National River and Recreation Area, which is the national park that runs through the Twin Cities. And they helped me out with some vegetation control. We have some research plots that were planted there by the U of M to study climate adaptation in bur oaks. So they did a lot of work clearing around those bur oaks and also did some invasive species removal. Super helpful. They were a great group of young people. They'll also be returning in late October, and they will help me out with some buckthorn control. So I'm looking forward to more help then. So volunteers this year were a little tricky with COVID. Usually we have Century College that comes out and helps. They've been partnering with the Nature Center and on our open space projects for quite a few years, but with classes being canceled in the spring, and I think fall classes are probably online too. We really haven't had them out this year, which has been a bummer because they are a huge help. We did finally have one volunteer group this summer to help us at Gladstone Savannah, a 3M volunteer group. They helped us remove invasive species, which was spotted knapweed was the invasive species they worked on. It was a great to kind of test out volunteers during COVID times. We weren't really sure how that would go. So, you know, everyone wore a mask. We had other precautions in place like cleaning tools before and after use, sanitizing, that sort of thing. So it worked out really well, and hoping to have a couple of other small groups of volunteers, 10 or under, so we can social distance and that sort of thing later this fall. So other individual volunteers have been out working too. We have open space monitors that volunteer, and they walk the park and let us know of any issues like vandalism or trash or dumping. Sort of seen more dumping this year, it seems like. But they're very valuable because they're kind of the eyes out there, and also let me know about invasive species and that sort of thing. So super helpful. We've also had this ongoing grant with Ramsey County that has been fabulous. They got a grant, I believe it was through the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, to control noxious weeds. And they do this all throughout the county, but in Maplewood, we have some populations of noxious weeds that they've been helping us with. So all those species listed there, they have been removing throughout the year, and it's been a huge help. And we're able this year to say that we eradicated a couple populations of wild parsnip, which, if you've heard of that one, it's a really awful invasive species, because if you get the sap on you and then you're out in the sun, you get these big blisters. It's really nasty. So staying on top of these, we're hoping that we can eradicate them. And all of these plants listed are on the Department of Agriculture's state prohibited noxious weed list. So these are kind of the worst of the worst. These are the things we really don't want getting established in our city or in our county. So hopefully we'll get those under control. Okay. And more things are happening this fall. Hoping to get a contractor at the Nature Center to remove buckthorn. Also, Anne is working on bridge and overlook replacements at the Nature Center, so some real great trail improvements there. Also hoping to hire a contractor to do some removal of woody species at Gladstone Savannah. We have some trees that are seeding into the prairie, so to get those out of there. And then also a little bit more prairie management at Prairie Farm, hopefully doing some spot spraying this fall. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the Conservation Corps crew will be back at Fish Creek to help me one more time this year. All right. And then some other great things that are happening. I've been partnering with some other organizations to hopefully bring some grant funding to our open spaces. So Great River Greening, they have an LCCMR grant, which I'll say I keep saying acronyms, but that stands for Legislative Citizens Commission on Minnesota Resources. That one has been tricky. So they applied last year and it's been held up in the legislature, unfortunately. It was tied in with some other items on a bill, and the House and Senate have not been able to agree on them. So it's been stuck. We should have been awarded that funding already, but it just hasn't happened. So just kind of waiting on that one. And that would provide some pollinator habitat at City Hall campus. So that would be a great educational opportunity and great to add more to City Hall campus, more natural plantings. And then the second grant that we applied for this year was with Friends of the Mississippi River. They also went for an LCCMR grant for 2021, and that would provide $160,000 worth of funding for restorations at Maplewood Preserve and Carver Preserve. So fingers crossed on that one. Maplewood, there would be a lot of invasive species removal, buckthorn removal, and hopefully some management of the prairie there. And then Carver Preserve, it would be prairie restoration and kind of that old field. So hopefully we'll get that funding. And then the third project we're hoping to fund is with Mississippi Park Connection, who I mentioned earlier in connection with the Conservation Corps crew that I've been working with. They went in for a grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, and our part of it is about $1,800. And that would provide for more Conservation Corps crew time at Fish Creek and also plant materials. So good things happening there. And that's about all I have. I'll just keep it at that. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know.
Hi, this is Nikki. I had a quick question. Emily, it's so nice to meet you. I don't think we had a chance to meet last year, so it's good to see you over Zoom anyways. I had a quick question about the pesticides. I was at Four Seasons, and there was somebody that lives right around the park that was saying that they were worried about some pesticides that were being used. Are we using any pesticides, or what type of chemicals are we using?
Yeah, I am not sure about Four Seasons. I can speak a little bit more toward garden management. We do use a little bit of herbicide, mostly to treat thistle, because it's a pretty nasty invasive species and it's not easy to control by pulling it. We also do use herbicides in our natural areas, and those mostly it's a lot of Roundup and glyphosate, and then also Garlon, which they're some of the less harmful pesticides or herbicides rather. So I'm not sure about Four Seasons though, or I wonder in what capacity or where they were being used. Do you know?
No, they were just worried about the monarch butterflies and them being affected by that. I'm not sure specifically.
Yeah, ideally too, just being responsible with herbicides and making sure you use them at the right time of the day and when wind is low and when, not spraying them on insects. Those best management practices come into play and are super important when it comes to protecting pollinators and other critters out there. So, yeah, good question though. Right.
Oh, I had another question too, actually, if nobody else does. Sorry. Sure. I know you're doing more like gardening maintenance and things like that, but and I know that we've been working hard in trying to protect our bees. But do you do anything? And maybe this is a question for Audra too. I don't know, but do we do anything with maintaining beehives where we don't want them, like in park areas that they've been bothering some residents?
Yeah.
So, Chair, members of the commission, I can chime in here. One unexpected side effect of COVID-19 and the fact that the playgrounds were closed for a lot of the early spring and through summer until we opened them, not being used, the bees found interesting places to find a home. So we have found a lot of bees nests maybe under teeter-totters and under merry-go-rounds and certain parts on the park that probably wouldn't have happened if more people had been regularly using them. So we have, we've actually gotten quite a few, And we do go out and remove those because we don't want, children getting stung or, so we have found quite a few, and some of them have settled into the wood chips. And so it has been an interesting problem this year.
Yeah, and I can chime in again too, that I would also say that most of those that you're encountering are probably wasps or yellow jackets, and
Yes.
they're really aggressive and dangerous, of course, and they also don't provide many pollinator services. They're actually mostly carnivorous. They eat, other insects and stuff like that. So, at least you can live with the fact that if you have to remove one of those nests, that they don't provide many pollinator services. So
Yeah, that's good too. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was at Wakefield Park this weekend, and there was tons of bees under the one pavilion I was in, and luckily they weren't too aggressive, but they were swarming us at one point. Like there was like probably up to, I want to say 8 or 9 around us at one time. And but luckily nobody that I saw got stung. But and then we were trying to like search around, where are they coming from? We couldn't even find where they were coming from. It was just kind of strange.
Hey, Nikki, if I chime in, I had spoke to you about that, and then another resident had talked about it, but they saw them going into the pergola. So park maintenance did go out and check the pergolas in the shelter to see if there was a nest, and they were yellow jackets. So again, like Emily said, something you don't want right next to your picnic shelter when people are having picnics and eating all their food and having their sugary drinks. So.
Well, thank you for that, Audra. And
Sure.
Emily.
Yeah, thank you.
And well, thank you very much, Emily.
My pleasure.
Oh, let's see. Dorothy is on mute. Let's see. Dorothy, I think you're on mute. There we go. Are you there, Dorothy? Okay, well, members of the commission, the only thing left on the agenda, oh, there she is. Dorothy, can you hear us? Oh, she might be having technical difficulties. The only thing I had left you guys had on the agenda tonight were recreation updates, and I just wanted to give you a little update on, yes, we stopped most of all of our recreation programming for the reasons I mentioned earlier when you were appointing your task force members, but we did try to keep an online presence, and we continued that even through the summer, and we created some online special events, and we called them our Maplewood Explore Maplewood challenges, and we had one in June, July, and now we're on the August one, and our June one was it was a Fitness Explorers Challenge, and we had a great response to that. It was from June 1st to June 21st, and it was great. People were keeping up with their logs and what they were doing and sending us photos and updates. And then in return, they got swag bags. And what we did is we filled those, and people arranged the time to come to the office to pick them up. So it was no contact, but it was still a great way to connect with the community. And then we did a Geo Explorers one in July, which was really fun. We updated all the geocaches, went out, put all new ones in there, and it was great to follow the coordinates and get out there and find them ourselves. And then had a challenge to see if people could find at least 10 of them. And there were so many people that were determined to find all 20, and they did. And they let us know if it was missing or disturbed. And Nikki, they were telling us about wasp or bees nests that were nearby. So it was a great way, again, to connect with the community. Every person who took part at least got a medal, and then they could sign up for the swag bag. And for that one, we had over 100 people that were actively hunting for geocaches and telling us about parks they'd never been to, didn't even know they existed, and it was great. And right now we're doing the Habitat Hike Challenge, which we coordinated with Ann Hutchinson, our naturalist from the Nature Center, and it was to visit at least three of the 5 challenge locations, and they were Applewood Preserve, Joy Park Preserve, it was Fish Creek and Gladstone, and then there was a whole list of things to find and
experience to fill out, kind of like a bingo card, sort of. And people have been sending awesome photos of that. And one family said they'd never even heard of Fish Creek and they lived really close and they didn't even know it was there. And so they said it's their new favorite place. So it's nice that we've been able to still reach the community, even though it's distancing and remote. And so we've been really happy with those. And another thing we do, we just started it and we're going to continue it through August, is I don't know how many of you follow us on our Parks and Rec Facebook page, but we do What Park Wednesday. And every Wednesday we post photos of a park and give clues and then let people see if they can guess which park it is. And then whoever guesses it, if there's more than one, we enter their names, do a drawing, and they get a swag bag as well. And we have people that are right on it. They're looking for it every Wednesday. So if you want to go on our Facebook page, you can see what the park is. We take clues. You can make a guess up till 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then we pick a winner and we post the winner and the name of the park on Thursday. So just some fun things that we're doing. So any questions about those? Or
Am I back?
you are back. Hi, Dorothy.
Oh,
That's
I
okay.
saw Audra just for a flash there.
That's okay.
Oh,
just did the
I don't know what
recreation
happened.
update. Yeah, that's okay.
Pardon me?
I was just doing the recreation updates. That was the last thing we had.
I could hear you,
Oh, okay.
but very faintly. The volume went way away.
Okay.
So I guess we're at about adjournment now.
Yep, that's all I had. So
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Second?
This is Nikki.
All those in favor, please say your name and your indication.
Craig, aye.
Karen, I.
Nikki, I.
Kimmy, aye.
Dorothy, aye. We're adjourned at 6:37. Thank you. And